On this week's episode of Whether or Not, we recap this week's earlier winter storm and also how bugs may have been impacted by the Arctic outbreak that ended the month of January. Jacob Morse has a feature that shows what goes on behind the scenes of Thon, and Matt Hoenig will have the forecast as we enter the second week of February. Whether or Not starts right now. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Whether or Not. I'm your host, Mike Susko.
And I'm your forecaster, Matt Hoenig.
So, Matt, we had that winter storm that moved through earlier in this week, dumping a pretty good amount of sleet and ice across the region. Please tell me we're not going to see anything like that in the coming days.
Yeah, certainly nothing of that magnitude, at least. If anything, temperatures have been mild the past 2 days. We're going to tumble in temperatures a little bit this weekend, and unfortunately, we could see a new threat of some light snow, nothing like we saw earlier in this week, but we'll talk about that coming up in the forecast.
All right, I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully you have more better news for us coming up. All right, and next is Nature in the News. Earlier this week, Pennsylvania was struck by another winter storm. Instead of snow totals being the big story, though, sleet and freezing rain dominated the headlines as some areas in Laurel Highlands picked up nearly a half of an inch of ice. Many schools and businesses across Pennsylvania, including Penn State, Kutztown, and Millersville, all closed due to the weather. Pittsburgh and the surrounding suburbs received mostly rain as temperatures were just too warm for snow and ice. In the central and northeastern regions of Pennsylvania, the storm began as snow and then switched to sleet Tuesday morning and lasted through the afternoon, creating a travel nightmare across the regions. In the southeast, snow eventually transitioned to rain, but not before dropping 1 to 2 inches for many in the Philadelphia region.
The cold snap that plagued much of the Midwest and Northeast back in January brought travel disruptions, power outages, and unfortunately a number of injuries and fatalities. It also was able to kill many invasive insects, according to a report from the National Pest Management Association. Researchers from Virginia Tech stated that as much as 95% of the stink bug population that was unable to find shelter this winter may have been wiped out from the brutal cold. Creepy crawlers in these areas are least equipped with physiological and behavioral adaptations to survive the cold. These claims will not be able to be tested until the spring when the insects return for the warmer weather.
A new study reveals large amounts of water are being dragged into the Earth's interior. Scientists at the Center of Arts and Sciences at the Washington University said that the discovery does have important impacts for the global water cycle. Researchers knew that the subduction zones, or areas where tectonic plates slides under another, could pull water down, but they didn't know how much. Images of seismic images from the Marianas Trench in the Pacific Ocean shows hydrated rock extends 20 miles deep, which is much deeper than previously thought. Scientists believe that most of the water that goes down at the trench comes back from the Earth into the atmosphere as water vapor.
Climate scientists Michael Mann and Warren Washington were awarded this year's Tyler Prize for Environmental Achievement, according to Earth and Space Science News. The Tyler Prize is given to exceptional scientists for their efforts to advance knowledge about climate change, for their courage in working on the issue, and for their commitment to public policy. The committee was impressed by Dr. Washington's advances in climate modeling and Dr. Mann's research in statistical techniques to reconstruct past global temperatures. Washington, a Penn State graduate, and Mann, a current Penn State faculty member, have been researching Earth's changing climate for a few decades now. The Whether or Not team congratulates Dr. Washington and Dr. Mann on their award. Well, in the wake of some wintry weather earlier this week, we'll see temperatures rise a little bit, at least to start Thon weekend, and then the tumble will come to finish off the weekend. So let's start by taking a look at the surface maps for this weekend. For your Friday, a cold front moving through earlier in the day, pushing most of the rain shower activity off of the coast across the northeast. Behind it, just some cloud cover here in State College. There could be a few light snow showers, primarily north and west of State College, but those really shouldn't bother us whatsoever through Friday afternoon and Friday evening. Heading into the day on Saturday, high pressure begins to build in from the west. A northwesterly wind will accompany that, so it will be a bit chillier during the day on Saturday. Some sunshine to start, then high clouds move in for the afternoon hours. Now, there will be a bit of a weak disturbance off of the mid-Atlantic coastline. That could bring some patchy light snow to perhaps the Philly area. But again, just some cloud cover here in State College. No precipitation to worry about here during the day on Saturday. Then come Sunday, a new system will move in from the south central portion of the country into the mid-Atlantic states, and it will be cold enough to the north of this system that most, if not all, the precipitation should fall in the form of snow. So as I mentioned for your Friday, any showers will be moving into far eastern Pennsylvania during the afternoon hours. Could even see a few breaks of sunshine here in central Pennsylvania. Temperatures will reach the lower 40s, so not too bad whatsoever for mid-February standards here. And then for your Friday evening, heading out to the Bryce Jordan Center for Thon, or perhaps doing something else in downtown State College. Not too bad of an evening, just some cloud cover, no precipitation to worry about whatsoever. Temperatures Friday night falling back into the middle 20s. For the day on Saturday, just some high cloud cover. Most of the precipitation should be to our south and southeast, but it will be significantly cooler with that northwesterly wind. High temperatures only reaching the lower 30s for the day on Saturday. That will set the stage for some light snow to move in during the day on Sunday. Temperatures only around freezing will support most of the precipitation falling as snow. Coming up next, our very own Jacob Morse has a feature on Thon operations and how they relate to the weather.
This weekend, students and families will travel from both near and far to fill the Bryce Jordan Center for Thon Weekend, a 46-hour no sitting, no sleeping dance marathon. As the largest student-run philanthropy in the world, more than 16,500 student volunteers participate in the year-long fundraising efforts to benefit Thon's sole beneficiary, Four Diamonds at Penn State Children's Hospital. Since Thon partnered with Four Diamonds in 1977, more than $151 million has been raised for Four Diamonds and their efforts to conquer childhood cancer. Last year alone, Thon raised over $10,151,000, all for the kids. This year-long fundraising effort culminates with Thon Weekend, which happens in the middle of February each year. Over 700 Penn State students are recognized as dancers for Thon Weekend each year, and they have to remain standing for the entire 46-hour event. Many Thon families will also be at the event since it gives the kids and their families the opportunity to forget about their cancer diagnosis and just have fun. But with Thon Weekend occurring in the middle of winter each year, the weather could very easily impact the event. I looked at the past 21 Thon weekends going back to 1998 and found that the most amount of snow that fell during one of these weekends was 3.5 inches back in 2005. Just last year, 2.6 inches of snow was recorded on the final day of Thon Weekend. But fortunately, all of these snow events have been minor and likely did not cause too many travel impacts for people coming to the event. It was also interesting to find that maximum temperatures have been over 60 degrees during 3 different Thon weekends going back to 1998, which is quite warm for the middle of February. But winter has also made its presence known during Thon Weekend, with temperatures dipping down to -7 degrees during the event in 2015. I sat down with the executive director of Thon, Kelly McCready, and the event safety director of Thon, Natalie Hansen, to discuss what their plans were if bad weather were to strike during Thon Weekend.
We have a snow emergency plan, which goes into effect with all the parking lots and how we disseminate information to anybody coming and where to park. And we work with Penn State OPP and the parking for the university to make sure that all the lots are cleared and that we can move any spectators in their vehicles to parking decks or anywhere else downtown.
Yeah, and just to chime in too, just making sure that we're aware of the fact that many people are traveling from long distances and also our volunteers are traveling to get to their shifts. So factoring that in the safety precautions we would want to communicate to make sure everyone arrives safely.
I also asked Kelly and Natalie what other ways besides snow that the weather could impact Thon Weekend.
Definitely. I think the rain obviously is a big impactor because a lot of people don't want to be waiting in line when it's cold and wet, so that can change when people decide to show up to the building, and also just cold. A lot of times we do have lines while people are waiting to get into the building, so that could affect how many people do want to attend Fawn just because of the cold.
Yeah, and if it is below a certain temperature, we would probably want to look at choosing a different location rather than people waiting outside.
Kelly and Natalie also work closely with local officials, including the Penn State Office of the Physical Plant, in the event that there are any weather impacts.
So we work with emergency management as well, and they kind of help us with our emergency protocol when it comes to weather, and they contact the weather service to get weather predictions for the weekend ahead of time.
Anywhere from 15,000 to 20,000 people will come to Thon Weekend, with most of them coming from Pennsylvania, but also some people will fly in for the event. Kelly and Natalie were sure to emphasize that their main priority is safety.
Just our main priority is keeping our volunteers and our spectators safe, so keeping an eye on that and making sure that we have specific protocol and precautions in place to make sure everyone has the best experience for Thon Weekend.
And making sure that everyone knows that if they do feel unsafe driving, like that CATA, if they're downtown, is running buses, and that they can walk and just not get behind the wheel of a vehicle if they feel unsafe.
As thousands of students and families congregate in the Bryce Jordan Center this weekend, let's hope that the weather won't impact this exciting and emotional 46-hour event. For Weather or Not, I'm Jacob Morse.
Well, earlier I mentioned the temperature tumble we'd be taking later into this weekend, and that will continue into the beginning of next week. But first, let's recap the weekend forecast. Generally drying out throughout the day on Friday, temperatures also reaching the lower 40s for high temperatures, so not too bad to end off your Friday afternoon. Come Saturday, will be dry, just some high cloud cover for most of the day. Temperatures a bit cooler as well, only around 33 for a high here in State College. And then come Sunday, a new system moves in from the south that will bring some periodic light snow Sunday afternoon and high temperatures right around the freezing mark. Heading into the beginning of next week, we'll start off chilly, below average, high temperatures generally in the upper 20s. It will stay dry for the first couple days of next week, but then eventually we'll see a new system move in for Wednesday, and then that's when temperatures start to inch closer to average. So our average high for this time of year, right around 37 degrees. We'll eventually get there by Thursday, and we'll perhaps exceed it during the day on Friday, and by then that system will primarily be producing rain as temperatures will rise above freezing.
Well, Matt, so next week on Wednesday, we'll have to watch to see if we add some snow and ice to our winter totals here. But at least afterwards, we'll get a little bit of break from the precip.
Yeah, and no major Arctic air to speak about in the extended forecast as well. Temperatures in the 20s and 30s to start the week, so that's pretty normal for mid-February here in State College. And as you mentioned, as those temperatures do warm later next week, any snow will flip over to rain.
All right, well, I'm excited on that to get those warmer temperatures. And speaking of above average temperatures, earlier in the Weather Whiz Quiz question, we asked what is the highest daily maximum temperature for Valentine's Day in State College? Was it A, 54 degrees, B, 66 degrees, C, 68 degrees, or D, 75 degrees? And if you answered B, 66, you are tonight's lucky winner. State College reached its maximum temperature in 1954, with the temperatures reaching as high as 66 degrees, around 20 degrees above average. Although this temperature seems pretty high, Valentine's Day has also experienced some pretty cold temperatures as well.
Yeah, the lowest high temperature of 6 degrees was set back in 1943, and the highest amount of snowfall we have experienced on Valentine's Day here in Center County is 6.1 inches, and that was set back in 1973. Mike, those date nights on Thursday night were not interrupted by snow whatsoever. Can't say the same thing about Thon Weekend, though. We might see some snow coming up later on Sunday.
All right, well, hopefully accumulations will be on the light side, and it'll happen after the Final Four, so that way everyone can get there and enjoy the final 4 hours of Thon and then get home safely. So we'll have to wait and see what happens on that.
Crossing our fingers.
Yes, definitely on that one. All right, well, that's all the time we have for Whether or Not this week. I'm your host, Mike Susko.
And I'm your forecaster, Matt Hoenig.
Have a great night, everyone.